This tutorial is how to use a digital multimeter to check your power on, say, batteries or a power outlet on a wall. The first section of the multimeter is your direct current section. It's marked with a V and a straight line with dashes underneath. On this particular multimeter, you have 5 settings for your direct current: 200 millivolts, 2000 millivolts, 20 volts, which I use for measuring AA batteries or 9-volt batteries. And these higher settings right here are for power tools that require larger batteries or even car batteries. This is your off position. The next section is your alternating current, or AC. It's marked with a V and a squiggly line to the right of that V. The first setting that you have is 200 volts. This is what you'll use to measure American outlets and Japanese outlets because they're at 120 or 100 volts. The next setting for AC voltage is 750. This is for measuring voltage in Europe and other places in Thailand that require 220 volts. Over here is where you measure amps. We will not be using amps because to measure all your amperage, you have to turn off all power to the circuit. If you don't, it'll burn out your multimeter. Over here, this is measuring resistance and ohms. We're not going to work with that either. Now at the very bottom of the multimeter, you have three slots where you can plug your leads into. You have COM, voltage, and DC. Let's take a look at the connectors here. You have 2 cables that will be inserted into the multimeter. One is red, one is black, and the part that will be plugging into test areas has a Sharpie end to it. The other end, this red section, has a circle at the end, and the red plug will go into the middle slot for voltage. That's where it always must go. It's a little difficult to get in there. That's kind of snug, so make sure you press it all the way in there. As you can see, it's under the voltage, ohms, and milliamp section. The black plug will go into the COM section. No matter what, it will always go into COM. Now the very top one, that's DC and amperage. That's so you can measure amperage. And like I said before, we will not do that because most likely the power will be on and it will destroy the multimeter. Now let's go ahead and test the voltage on batteries. This is a good idea to see if your batteries are fully charged or if you need to throw them away. So typical household batteries, I want to set it to 20 volts because they usually run anywhere from 1 volt to 20 volts. The first battery I'm going to choose is my AAA battery. The positive side, and then this is the negative side. I'm going to attach the red prong to the positive side of the battery and the black prong to the negative side of the battery. And as you can see on the multimeter, it's reading 1.16. Now it'll oscillate back and forth, and that's because this AAA battery is a 1.1 volts. So that battery is good, and I can still use it. Now let's move over to the 9-volt battery. As you can see on the side, it says 9 volts. There are 2 prongs at the top. The smaller one is positive, and the bigger one is negative. So just like I did with the AAA battery, I'm going to connect the red prong to the positive side, black prong to the negative. And it's reading 9.2 to 9.4. So that means this battery is good to go. If your voltage on your batteries is below half the voltage written, that means it's dying. So the next part, we're going to go over testing the voltage on alternating current. We're going to use that by testing this power strip that's already connected into a wall outlet. So I'm switching my setting to my alternating current side, and I'm putting it on 200. Now the outlet I'm using, I'm off base. I'm using Japanese power. Japanese power is on 100 volts, while American power outlets run on 120 volts. So let's go over the prongs, or the inputs, on this power strip. The long input you have here, this is called the tall one. It's also called neutral. Above that one, it's a smaller output. That's the hot. Below here, the middle one that looks like a frowny face, that's your ground. So to test the voltage, first thing we're going to do, we're going to take the positive end of the multimeter. I'm going to plug it into the hot outlet. And I'm going to take the black prong and plug it into the neutral outlet. And as you can see, it's at 102. That shows that we're running on typical Japanese power, which is 100 volts. And as you can see, it goes back and forth. It kind of changes because voltage is never constant. Now I want to check the ground. Proper grounding, if it was properly grounded, that would read around 102 volts. But as you can see, it's at 11.6. That's because Japanese power outlets are not grounded. Most professional electricians would say that's a safety hazard, but out here in Okinawa, because we're running on 100 volts, it doesn't cause a problem. Now I'm checking the reading between neutral and ground outlets, and I'm getting 11.8. That would only happen here in Japan. In America, you would want to make sure that that reading would be no more than 2.0. Now, if you're ever testing out a power outlet, and you know it should be around 100 or 120 volts, then you know it's good. But if it's reading anything lower, like say half that amount, you don't want to use that power outlet. You want to find another one. You're going to have to call an electrician to take care of it. Now, to test the voltage, if we're using a European or Thailand outlet, we would make the setting on the AC voltage area on the multimeter to 750. We do that because voltage in Europe and Thailand is at 220 volts. Now we're going to test the voltage, and the multimeter is going to say 102 because I'm currently connected to Japanese power. But in Thailand, it would say 220. Now remember, before you plug anything into a 220 volt outlet, you must connect it to a transformer that will step that 220 voltage down to 120 for our American products.